It started off like I'd suffered with mental health problems my whole life, but I didn't know what it was because I never had no education on the matter. And it wasn't until after the Klitschko fight, a very massive high, then I had to have a even worse lowest low that anyone could ever have. I'd wake up and I think, why did I wake up this morning? This is coming from a man who had everything: money, fame, glory, titles, a wife, a family, kids, everything. But I felt as if I had nothing. I felt there was an empty, gaping hole that was just filled with gloom and doom, and it just was one bad thing happened to me after another. Within 7 days, the IBF stripped me of their title because I couldn't defend against Glasgow, who was a nobody, because I had a rematch clause with Vladimir. But the IBF wasn't expecting me to beat Vladimir, so they chucked that clause in there anyway, thinking Vladimir's going to win and defend against Glasgow. But because I won, they stripped me of the belt, which was none of my reason.
Within 7 days of the fight?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
How can they require you to fight within 7 days?
No, they didn't, but they required me to go into negotiations.
And you didn't. So just not going into negotiations to sign, they stripped you within 7 days?
Yeah, but they knew I couldn't go into negotiations because of a rematch clause.
Boxing's a dirty business.
So I was stuck in between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. That was one belt gone. And then my team and Klitschko's team were carrying on about where the fight was going to be. It was going to be on a cruise ship in Dubai. It was going to be here. It was going to be there. Time was dragging on.
A cruise ship?
A cruise ship, yeah. There was some Arab billionaire who wanted to make this fight an exclusive fight for him and his buddies.
No.
Yeah.
Come on.
Seriously, this fight was heading for a cruise ship.
That fucking oil money, man.
They've got some money,
Christ.
but listen, if they can afford it, do it. That's what I say.
That would have been the most hilarious scenario ever for a world heavyweight title fight. A bunch of Arab billionaires on a cruise ship.
The rematch didn't happen initially because I went over on my ankle in training. I was in Holland training for the rematch, and I was running up on heavy terrain, and I went over on my ankle, sprained my ankle quite badly, so we had to postpone the fight. And but by the time I was off, like say 3 months, getting this ankle right and all that, I just didn't want to do it anymore, if you know what I mean. I didn't have the desire. The fire wasn't burning no longer to fight. And I was suffering with depression the whole time. Even in training camp, before I sprained my ankle, I was depressed as depressed could be on a daily basis. And I'm thinking, why am I feeling like this? I don't have no reason to feel like it. Some people will say, oh, well, it's attention seeking or whatever. But unless you've experienced what I'm saying, it's sort of impossible to understand where I've been or where I've come from. And it just went from bad to worse. I hit the drink heavily on a daily basis. I hit the drugs. I was out all night partying with women of the night and not coming home. And, you know, I didn't care about boxing. I didn't care about living. I just wanted to die. And I was going to have a good time doing it while I was doing it. I used to drink and take drugs to get away from the depression, because when I was drunk or high, then I wouldn't think about being depressed. I thought about being I'm a boxing champion, or I feel great. But as we know, when the drink wears off, it only leaves you with a bad hangover and feeling even more depressed. For someone who suffers with mental health, the worst thing we can do to escape it is take drugs or alcohol. No, but I was focused on what I wanted to do, and that was beat Vladimir Klitschko. And I believe when you've got a goal in mind from being a child all your life, and you do that, then I was lost. I was almost like I didn't have anything more to do in my life. Although I could have carried on and defended the belts and whatever, I wasn't really interested in doing that. I'd beat the man I'd always wanted to do. Because when I was an amateur boxer, I used to watch Vladimir Klitschko on TV as a world heavyweight champion. And I always aimed, he was my target to beat. And when I finally beat him, it was like climbing my Everest. I didn't have anything more to prove. And the fire was dead. There was no fire. I was forcing myself to fight. And I always said, I didn't want to be one of those people who just fought for money. Because there's plenty of people with money in the world, plenty of them. But who knows them? And the reasons for me fighting, it's not for money or for belts or glory. I fight because I don't know anything else. I've always been a fighter, from being born to being 30 years old now. It's all I love to do. I don't have any other passion. I've looked. The Lord knows I've looked. And if I had anything else I was good at or I could do, I'd be doing it. I tried retirement. I was 27. I retired under the second man in boxing heavyweight history to retire unbeaten as a world champion, like Rocky Marciano before me. But it wasn't enough. I was like, I am lost without this fight game. I tried golfing, I tried clay pigeon shooting, I tried 4x4ing, I tried going to strip clubs, bars, restaurants, everything. And it was just like, I had this emptiness inside where I just wanted to fight.
Well, in comparison to what you've accomplished, everything else has to seem pretty dull. I mean, until you step into the ring with Vladimir Klitschko.
It didn't. For the first time in his whole career, he was fighting somebody who was not just bigger than him, but more athletic, who could move more.
Yeah.
Someone who wasn't just looking for one lucky punch. I knew going into the Vladimir fight that everybody, all the rest of the opponents, them 25 men before me, had all went in trying to do the same thing, trying to knock him out. And he's got something of a weird defence where he puts both arms out in front of him, and it's almost very awkward to land on that chin with big punches. So I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make that mistake. I'm going to outbox him. And all my team said, this is not a good idea. We've got to go to Germany to try and outbox a super champion and try and win on the cards. Are you crazy? I said, yes. I said, but if I wasn't crazy, I wouldn't be great. And I went over there and outboxed him. And nobody, apart from my brother or my father, thought I could do it. You know, even people who were close to me in camp, they were very unsure of what was going to happen. And me being me, I always had that little smile on my face because I believed it. I believed I could always beat Vladimir Klitschko. I even told Vladimir years before, when I was 22, I said, I'll beat you one day. Emmanuel Stewart told him too, God rest his soul. He said, Tyson Fury is the heir to the throne. He said, when his time is ready, he will beat you. Straight to him. Vladimir hated that. He hated Emmanuel talking about me like that. But he done it either way.
Well, I'm sure it was good fire under him during training as well. Now, you were focused for that fight. You were prepared, and afterwards, was it just the realization that you had accomplished this incredible goal that set into depression? Was it you didn't know what to do next, or was it just that your focus was now no longer on this unattainable, almost insurmountable obstacle in front of you, becoming the heavyweight champion of the world? All of a sudden you did it, then the depression kicks in.
Yeah, my conditioning trainer, Christian, he said to me before the Klitschko fight, he said, what will you do after you win? I said, probably be depressed for a long time. He said, what? I said, truthfully, I was almost expecting it, and I didn't think I'd ever box again. Even the day after the Klitschko fight, Sky Sports interviewed me, the UK broadcaster who put it on, and they said, what's next for Tyson Fury? I said, I'll probably never box again. I knew. I said to me dad and my brothers before the fight, a week before the fight, I said, win, lose or draw, I said, this is probably going to be my last fight. Because I knew the fire was going. I didn't have that hunger anymore. I had the hunger to beat Vladimir Klitschko, but not to carry on and continue. And I said I didn't want it to be about money or financial gain. I wanted to be the best of my time, beat the best man, and that's what I did. And I was a man of my word, and I didn't box again. Until 2.5 years later, I decided to make a comeback, because I was sitting here, 400 pounds, a drug addict, an alcoholic. By the way, I'd never took a drug in my life until I got to 27.
Really?
Never.
Nothing.
Not smoked weed, not nothing.
And what were the drugs? What were the drugs of choice once you won the title?
Cocaine was the usual one, and that was it really. Cocaine and alcohol. It's like
roller coaster.
Crazy drug and alcohol mix.
Yeah.
But I look back on it now, and I think, would I change that? I wouldn't. And not many people will think, well, this man's crazy for saying that on a radio show, but I wouldn't change a thing, because I know it was supposed to happen, and I needed to be tested to see what type of character I was. Although I did all those mad things, and I went through all that time, and I tried to commit suicide, and
how'd you try to commit suicide?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. Like I said, I was waking up and I didn't want to be alive. I was making everybody's life a misery. Everybody who was close to me was pushing away. Nobody could talk to me, talk any sense into me at all. And I'd go very, very, very low at times, very low. And I'd start thinking all these crazy thoughts and this, that and the other. And I was in my car, I bought a brand new Ferrari convertible in the summer of 2016. And I was in it, and I was on the highway. and there's a strip of the highway where I am, and at the bottom of about a 5 mile strip there's a massive bridge that crosses the motorway.